Today I will demonstrate how to run SolidFire Demo VM 12.3 virtual machine on VirtualBox on Windows. You could do the same on Linux. You would import the OVA file, which was built for VMware, and then you'll make some changes necessary to get this thing going. So you will see some invalid settings are detected. These are the display settings, not really what bothers us too much. We'll fix those as well. So first, CPUs, you can up it a little bit if you have 8 cores, and this is the setting that removes the invalid setting warning. You have to bring it up to 24 megabytes with that particular setting. This is the key part to make it work. Remove the SCSI and ID controller or disks, detach from them, and then add a SATA controller and reattach all the 5 disks that were originally imported in the same order. I also checked the box SSD. I don't know if that helps or not. Now, this step is by default it will work, but you want to make sure that your Ethernet 0 and 1 are attached to the right interfaces. So usually I attach the management interface to my bridge adapter and I SCSI it to internal. Then you start the virtual machine. Once it's started, the only 2 things you need to change is the first 2 settings, cluster settings and NICs. First, we need to configure the NICs, starting with Ethernet 0. I will configure this one to use a static IP. So you need to have static IPs for the both. So I just find a free or available IPv4 and I configure my management address. With this, I should be able to log in, but I still cannot. This is fine, it's still starting. So while we are waiting, we could wait, or we could just go back to network and configure Ethernet 1 while we wait. Now, Ethernet 1, I don't have DHCP there, so I will just key in settings that are suitable for my environment. No gateway on this network, most likely. MTU 9000, this should work fine on internal networks. And with the both NICs configured as with static IPv4 addresses, I can now also configure in my cluster settings my host name. I can change it, and I can key in my cluster name, which can be anything. So once you're done here, you can go back and refresh. By this time, this web management interface has started. You can see that in no details, again, the first 2 settings are the only places we would need to enter stuff, but I already did this in the CLI while I was waiting, so I don't need to do anything. If you decided to wait and use the web UI, you would do this here, and then once done, you would go to create cluster. Alright, so we have everything ready because we did it before in the CLI. So I only need to pick 2 virtual IP addresses. So I incremented mine by 1 because they're both available, and make sure everything is right. You need to check this host that you selected, create cluster, and then you can go to the UI. You will get kicked out because you have not authorized and authenticated. Once you're done with that, cluster will be a little bit slow at the beginning because it's still figuring out what's going on. What we want to do is to add drives. You need to wait for this warning, drive available, then go to cluster, drives available, and you will see the drives that we added and attached to a SATA controller. So add these 4, and with that, you're ready to use the cluster. You'll create an account and volumes, maybe QoS policies, and other things. So this works as expected. Your SolidFire Virtual Machine 12.3 on VirtualBox is ready to use. And you can see here, even with all the other stuff that I have running, I'm using about 22 gig of RAM, so you can do demos and demonstrate Kubernetes and other things.